Good day, and welcome to Soft Skills, Strong Results, Practical Strategies to Improve Interpersonal Communication. I'm your host, Charlie Krebs. Today, we're going to talk about the first two types of soft skills, and that's interpersonal soft skills, and that has to do with soft skills in between people. The second type of soft skills are what I call cognitive soft skills, and it has to do with the way we think or the way we communicate with ourselves. So let's get right to it. Let's distinguish the difference between hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are things that we can learn, things that are measurable, things that are a knowledge set. For example, computer programming or financial management or learning a foreign language, things along those lines. A lot of skills that can be passed on from one person to another. Where soft skills are things that have to do with interacting with other people or things that are certainly less measurable. Soft skills have to do with communication and connection with people. They're not things that you can put a finger on necessarily, but they're a thing that you can feel. When you're interacting with somebody else, you can tell if they have empathy for you. You can tell if they're listening to you. So communicating and connecting with others has to do with interpersonal soft skills. Communicating with yourself is what I call cognitive soft skills. Actually, I like to call that mental engineering. So let's focus today on interpersonal soft skills, and that means communicating and interacting with other people. Whenever you're in the presence of another person or a couple people or something like that, you are using interpersonal skills. When you're in a group of a lot of people, say you're a newscaster, that would be mass communication. But interpersonal skills are when it's 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 or something like that. And whenever you're in the presence of other people, you can't not communicate. Because communicating isn't all done with words. Only 10% of communication has to do with the words we speak. 10%, some would say even less. The second thing, that about 30% of communication has to do with our tone of voice. When you listen to somebody, you can tell how they feel by their tone of voice. If you ask someone, how are you? And they go, fine. Well, clearly you can tell that they're not fine. So their words said that they were fine, but their tone of voice said they're not fine. So 10% with the words we use, 30% with our tone of voice, and 60% with our nonverbals. And if you can cultivate soft skills, you can improve every single relationship in your life. Whether that's a personal relationship, whether that's a professional relationship, but every relationship that you have in your life can benefit by improving the way that you use soft skills. So the biggest soft skill is listening. And I would say most people aren't good listeners. And there's a simple reason for that, because most people listen so they can reply. While the other person is talking, you're sitting there going, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then you have an answer. And so you've stopped really listening to them, and you're spending your time focusing in your own brain about what you're talking about. So instead of listening so you can reply, you should be listening so you can understand. What are their main points? If you had to teach what someone is telling you right now, and you had to go teach somebody else, you'd pay attention so that you knew what their main points are. So when you're actively listening, in a way, you're thinking to yourself, okay, what's their main point? If I had to write this down, what would I write down? And I would say that by simply improving your listening, you can improve your interaction with other people. So when we're listening, one thing that we need to do is we need to pay attention. So many times, this day and age, we are so distracted. And whether or not you're distracted by message you're expecting to get on your phone, or you're distracted by something you have to do that night, we're not fully present. And it's challenging to be present, because presence is about the present moment. Because everything from this exact moment into the future is the future. It doesn't exist. It will exist, but it doesn't right now. Everything from now until the beginning of time doesn't exist. It did exist, but the present, that's what makes presence, is being right here, right now, with the people you're occupying this moment with. So instead of thinking about what you need to do next, instead of thinking about the people that you need to send a message to, be right here and be present. One of the things to let people know that you're present is called attending. If I'm listening to somebody, I can just, okay. Let them know that I'm paying attention. Now, you certainly don't want to be a bobblehead and go, because that's artificial. But if you're really paying attention, you can send them a signal that you are paying attention. Sometimes you can summarize what they're saying because maybe you didn't get it right. You can say, so what I'm hearing you say is, so maybe that's what you want to do. You may want to ask a question and say, is this what you're saying? And they can say, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I meant. And then you can correct that information. Active listening builds trust. If I know that you're right here, right now, in the present moment with me, I feel like I can trust you because you're not wandering off. You're putting your focus on me, and that tells me that I can trust you. Active listening builds a greater connection with people. When you have a connection with people, I'm in your life and you're in my life. And that connection, I value you and you value me, and that promotes understanding. I think one of the biggest problems in relationships is that when one person doesn't understand the other person, and maybe they don't understand the other person because they weren't actively listening. If they were actively listening, we can de-escalate conflict. If I know exactly what you're saying, I don't jump to any conclusions. If my goal is to understand what you are saying, then I'm really paying attention, and so it's much less likely that I'm going to jump to conclusions. Active listening also helps us be better problem solvers. If I know what the underlying issue is, if I'm actively listening to you and I know what the underlying issue is, then I'm going to be able to solve that problem much more easily. And active listening nurtures empathy. Empathy is when we try to walk a mile in the other person's shoes to see what's going on in their life. Not pretend like we know what's going on in their life, but that we know what's going on in their life. And if we do, we're less likely to be judgmental of that person. So active listening is when we're really present with the other person, paying attention. Now, there are a number of different kinds of bad listening. A type of bad listening is called pseudo-listening, where you're just pretending to listen, okay? I remember somebody that I would have a phone conversation with regularly, and I didn't have the heart to tell them that I didn't like what they were saying, and so they'd be saying something, and I'm like, ooh, ooh. And I was just doing that, but I wasn't actually paying attention to them. I wanted them to think I was paying attention to them, but I wasn't. Another kind of bad listening is selective listening, where I only hear things that have to do with me. That's why using somebody's name can be good, because it draws them in. They heard their name, so they're drawn into what's going on. Now, now we find out, on the internet, but I remember when I was a kid, we'd be watching TV and we were listening for when our county schools were closed in winter because of all the snow. I didn't care about every other county. I just wanted to listen to Steuben County, and that was what I was paying attention to. Another almost evil kind of bad listening is ambushing. I'm listening for the other person to say something that I can use against them. That's not really listening, and that's not really listening to understand what people are saying. One thing that we can do that's a great soft skill is to remember someone's name. Our name is something that's very personal to us, and so when people use our name, it makes a connection with us. It means that they think I matter. If they know my name, then it means that they matter. Now, most people would say that they're bad at remembering names. And it's because they think they're bad at remembering names, so they're setting that up to be the fact. But if I'm being introduced to you at a party, and I say, hi, I'm Charlie, and you say, hi, I'm Jason, then while I'm saying, after I say my name is Charlie, I'm thinking, I hope I don't forget their name. And while I'm thinking, I hope I don't forget their name, I actually didn't hear them say their name. So one thing I can do to become better at remembering names is to shut up my thinking and to just be there and listen for their name. It's just like when we're reading a book. Do you ever get to the bottom of a page of the book and go, what did I just read? And then you have to go back and reread that page. It's because you're thinking, I have to remember this, I have to remember this. And so you remember that you're supposed to remember it, but you don't remember what you actually read. Another soft skill is noticing people. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody walked in a room and you thought, when did they get here? You didn't even notice them come in. So try to take yourself out of paying attention to just yourselves. It's okay to take care of yourself and think about yourself, but not at the expense of never paying attention to other people. Notice what people say. Sometimes somebody will say something, you go, but you didn't really hear what they were saying. That's part of active listening. So listen to what people have to say and listen to what they don't say. Listen between the lines. Do you hear some depression in their voice? Do you hear some excitement in their voice? Do you hear something that's giving you a clue as to how they feel? So listen between the words. Notice what people wear. People take pride usually in what they wear, and if you can notice what people wear, then that tells them that you're paying attention to them. Notice what they notice. If somebody says, look at the pattern in that, and you can say, I never noticed that. That's observant of you. Think about how that makes someone feel. Another thing that you can do is you can ask people about their life. Ask them about their family. Let's say somebody's parent just went into a nursing home. You can say, how are they doing? I know they fell and that they broke their leg. How are they doing? That tells them that you care. Ask them about their kid's soccer game. This is important because it sends a message that you value the other person. And valuing the other person is probably the greatest gift that you can give them. I think somewhere inside, we all want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like we're valued. And as somebody that's communicating with them, we can do a lot of things to let someone know that they're valued and that they're appreciated. We can do that by our tone of voice. If, let's say you go to a funeral, you don't walk up to somebody and say, gee, I'm so sorry for your loss. I mean, that certainly doesn't communicate that. But if I walk up to somebody and just say, I'm so sorry, your tone of voice is communicating that. Try to use the word you more than you use the word I. Because if I say you a lot, and you this, and you this, and you this, that tells somebody that I'm paying attention to them. Think about their body language. Their body language closed. Are they looking at you? Are they looking down? Are they looking away? They've got some weird angle. If somebody's standing there, are they cropped up on one leg? Those are all kinds of closed body languages. Now, when we're standing and talking to people, I know it's probably more uncomfortable, but when I'm having a conversation with somebody at a reception and I'm just standing there talking with them, I put my hands at my side. Yes, it's a little uncomfortable for me, but think about it. I mean, look at my hands right now. My hands are open as opposed to if my hands are closed. So our body position communicates something. We need to remember that everything sends a message. When we're in the presence of other people, absolutely everything we say and do and wear sends a message. Even there's an aspect of communication called proxemics. Proxemics is based on the word proximity. Where you stand, is that near or far? What's your physical relationship? Are you angled? Are you doing this? Are you standing? Are you sitting? I learned one time many years ago, when I am meeting somebody or conversing with someone that uses a wheelchair, the best thing I can do is sit down, because then that takes what's different out of the picture. And whenever I can do that, some people may notice and go, well, he just sat down. That was nice. Or some people may not notice, but suddenly we're eye to eye. So proxemics can send a message that you value somebody. Another thing is a similar word. It's called chronemics, based on the word chronology, the amount of time that you spend with somebody. If I walk by your office and I just look in and I say, hello, and I keep right on walking, that sends a different message than if I stop in your doorway, even for a couple of seconds, and I say, how's your day? So I spent more time with you, and that additional time that I spent with you sends a message that I value you. Something simple that you can do is you can let people cut ahead of you in line. We never know what they're going through. And sometimes you let somebody cut ahead of you. When you're in the grocery store and I've got a whole basket full of stuff and somebody's standing behind me in line with one carton of milk. And I say, do you want to go ahead? They're always grateful because I let them cut in line ahead of me. One of the things I like about Pittsburgh is when I'm driving, we're always trying to merge lanes and everything. And I find people in Pittsburgh, let me cut in. And so what that's done is that's turned me into somebody that lets other people cut in. So when we use these soft skills, they rub off on other people. We can open doors for people. We can compliment people. We can support their ideas. If you're listening to a colleague at a meeting and they say something and you say, you know, Bob and I were talking about that the other day, and I think that could really work for this problem that we're having. That sends a message to Bob that I support him, but it also says that I like this idea and I think it could be good for our company. When we ask people how they're doing, I think that sends a big message. Whenever I go to the grocery store or go to Walmart, one of the first things I do is I ask the cashier, how's your day? And you know what the most common response is? Thank you for asking, because it makes people feel valued. Another simple thing that we can do is instead of telling someone what to do, we can ask them what to do. Years ago, when I was the house manager of a big performing arts center in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, we had 4 theaters, and I was the house manager, and I was in charge of all audience operations. Sometimes we'd have 3 or 4 theaters going at a time, and there was the lead custodian. His name was Ralph. And every once in a while, with that many theaters and that many people, we'd have a medical emergency. And so we would have to call an ambulance. So one of the staff would call the ambulance. I would get on the walkie-talkie, and I'd say, this is Charlie to Ralph. We have an ambulance showing up. Would you open the loading dock, please? And a few years later, when Ralph was retiring, he said to me, he goes, do you know you always asked me? He said, you didn't need to ask me, but you always asked me to open the loading dock door instead of telling me to open the loading dock door. And that sent a message. And I think that message was that I valued him, and I did value him. I would say we were even friends. But valuing somebody is a tremendous gift that you can give someone. Another soft skill that goes a long way is empathy. In empathy, trying to understand someone's perspective, genuinely care about them and support them. And it says that you value them. Empathy is a key to strong communities, and it means that we're trying to bridge divides and that we're attuned to other people. And if I'm attuned to you and you're attuned to her and she's attuned to him and they're attuned to me, that just builds a connection between us. So empathy can go a long way in building strong communities. Rapport is a great soft skill that we can take advantage of. And rapport is about mutual benefits. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's called reflexivity. And it's about give and take. And it creates harmony. If you care about me, that's making me more likely to care about you. If I care about you, maybe that makes you care about me more. And rapport helps us build trusting relationships, and it fosters openness. And one side effect that's really wonderful is that it makes relationships more fun. Maybe it's just your next door neighbor. Maybe you just give each other a hard time. You know, we don't give people a hard time that we don't like. If we like somebody, I learned this from my dad, if I like somebody, I give them a hard time. And in a way, it's saying that I like them. Respect. I think we could all do well to respect other people more. And respect is honoring someone, honoring their values, honoring their time, honoring their ideas, acknowledging their perspectives, recognizing and honoring their boundaries, maybe sometimes recognizing that maybe they need to do it on their own. Maybe I know how to do it better than they do, but if I shut up and let them figure it out for themselves, I'm honoring their autonomy. And respect fosters open dialogue. If I respect you, I'm not going to interrupt you as much. And if I don't interrupt you as much, it means that I care about you. Encouraging is an easy soft skill that we can do. It helps build somebody else's confidence because it's so easy to criticize people. And it's so easy to say, well, you didn't do that right, you didn't do it that right, or I know how to do it. And sometimes we do that. I want to feel good about myself. Maybe I can't put myself up, but I can put you down. And that's going to make me, in comparison, feel more important. But that's not good encouraging. Encouraging basically sends a message that I believe in you. And sometimes that's all somebody needs to get over a challenge and go, maybe I believe in myself too. And sometimes encouraging can just be as easy as going, good job, or I like what you did there. Encouraging boosts our self-confidence, and boosting our self-confidence raises our self-worth. We've all seen people that you can tell they have very low self-worth. They walk around and they look at the ground. They don't have a skip in their step. It just looks like their life is terrible. And just a little bit of encouragement can maybe reduce some of their isolation. Maybe it can reduce their anxiety. Encouragement helps others take risks. We all have risks that we think, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and we don't. And also, encouragement helps people overcome fear. So you can see there are dozens and dozens of soft skills that we all know. We just have to learn to employ them. A great soft skill, and it's a big buzzword in business these days, is teamwork. People want to hire somebody that's a good team player. For some people, being a good team player is even more important than if you know the skills. You can be trained in a lot of things, but sometimes it's hard to train somebody in being a good team player. Being a good team player promotes a positive work climate. And our work climate is like weather. If we work in a climate that's positive, it means we all are looking out for each other. And that's a climate that encourages everyone with self-growth. And the bottom line to that is it increases productivity. Adaptability is another great soft skill that we can use. And adaptability has to do with fitting into each other's world. Instead of me getting you to fit into my world, maybe I can fit into your world. And if I'm willing to fit into your world, that means that I value you. Adaptability also has to do with the ability to think on our feet. Not everything is going to be able to be prepared in advance. Somebody's going to ask you something and you don't know. Now, if your boss comes to you and says, can I ask you to do something? And you go, let me think about that. Let me get back to you tomorrow. That's not good thinking on your feet. That's not good adaptability. But if your boss comes to you and says, can I ask you to do something? And you go, sure, I'll try that and see what happens. I can do that. Adaptability means we can also navigate better in an unpredictable world. And we welcome change instead of fearing it. A big soft skill is cultural awareness. Trying to make ourselves aware of what other people's lives are like. And again, trying to fit into their world instead of them fitting into my world. Different times that I've traveled abroad, I've made an attempt to learn a little bit of the other person's language. And when I'm asking them how to do something in their language in a broken way, they can tell I'm not a native speaker, but I think they appreciate the effort. And nine times out of 10, they'll say, I speak English, but they like the fact that I made an effort to try. Cultural awareness prevents misunderstandings. When people use certain gestures, maybe it means something in another culture and it doesn't mean it in my culture. And so if I'm culturally aware, I'm not going to use that gesture because it means something bad to another culture. Being culturally aware means that I'm open to diversity. And when we're open to diversity, it means we're open to new ideas. Other people might look at things differently than I look at them. We've all grown up in different situations, and cultural awareness doesn't necessarily mean what nation you're from. Maybe it's what religion, or maybe it's what sexual orientation, or maybe it's what geography you grew up in. And it means that you're open to a lot of different things, and it fosters inclusion, and it fosters tolerance. And inclusion and tolerance make us all better. A great soft skill is conflict resolution. It means addressing disagreements in a way where we both understand each other. Have you ever had a conflict with somebody and resolved it in such a positive way that when it was over with, you actually got along with the person better than you did before you had the conflict? And so that can be a great way to improve your relationships. It promotes a positive work environment because no longer are people afraid to disagree. Nowadays, if people disagree, they unfriend them or they shun them out of their lives in some way or another. What if it was okay to disagree with people and we still like them? I don't have to agree with everything you believe, and you don't have to agree with everything I believe, but we can still be civil to one another. Resolving conflicts positively can improve our emotional well-being. Because if I'm not afraid of having a conflict with someone, then I'm okay believing what it is that I believe. The last soft skill that I want to talk about is creating esprit. Another way of thinking about esprit is spirit, enthusiasm, camaraderie. When you work in an environment where there's esprit, it creates a climate of shared vision. We all work for the same company, and while we may not have exactly the same reasons for working with this company, we may buy into what the vision of the business is all about. It may also mean that we feel valued. If the business is willing to invest in my esprit, then it means that the business values me. And it also, esprit means that we're inspiring other people to do their best. When I feel a sense of pride working somewhere, I'm going to give you my best, whether you ask me to give you my best at all. Esprit fosters cohesion and loyalty, and it boosts morale. It increases motivation, it increases job satisfaction, and it improves performance. And if we perform better, everyone wins. All of these soft skills lead to one thing, and that's better leadership. So if a leader invests in improving her or his soft skills, that leader is making a difference for every person they lead, including themselves. So if you want to be a better leader, invest in your own soft skills. So clearly there are a wide variety of soft skills in which we can invest. They all affect our human interaction. So those are interpersonal soft skills. Next time, we're going to talk about cognitive soft skills, which is all about managing our thinking, which is what I call mental engineering. So thank you all for joining me today on Soft Skills, Strong Results. I'm your host, Charlie Krebs, and remember, soft skills are the human side of success.